Doing great. How you guys doing?
Looking back, what'd you think of game number one? Have you had a couple days since?
Well, I guess it's always good to get a win under your belt when you're starting out, especially with new guys, new parts. Trying to identify roles. You guys with a scores mentality, because I've also found it in my years of doing this, even as a player, some guys are better in practice than they are in the game, and vice versa. So that part was good. I just really getting guys in the flow. It's good to have Dejuan back. Caleb be back again. So we're excited about those guys getting in the fold, and really looking forward to practicing.
You mentioned Dejuan and Caleb. Do you have any update on Trayvon yet? Or?
Not yet.
What do you expect that Dejuan can add specifically to what we saw?
A guy that can score the ball. One of our better guys, especially getting to the rim. Much improved three-point shooter from his time with K-State, and that was one of the things he worked on there as well. I think he's a high-level defender. One of our better offensive rebounders at the guard position. He's a guy that plays with a motor. He plays at a high level on both sides of the ball.
How does the lineup change with him being available?
He's a guy that could possibly. He was certainly a starter going into it, so he's a guy certainly a starter. So, but we'll look at it as we go. Yeah.
This is a really early part of the year, obviously. What's so important about these first few games before you get into maybe the seemingly quote-unquote more important non-conference games are getting into SEC play?
Well, again, as you know, they're all important.
The non-rivalry games.
Yeah, I just think again, with so many new guys trying to get rotations, who play well with each other, who's good in certain situations. Because I think there might have been a point where, again, excuse me, I think there might have been a point we had Anton and Boogie on the floor quite a bit. Well, they've rarely been on the floor together. You're talking June, July, because they've both been at that point guard position, but just really trying to get those guys more in practice together, and then kind of move Kobe at some point, do different things that way. But I just trying to get a solid rotation. If you can play 4 perimeter guys, 5 perimeter guys, because even though Kobe's a big guy, he's more of a perimeter guy, and just who flows well that way. And how do you defend certain things, whether you're front of the post, three-quarters. There's certain things you practice, but oftentimes the game presents different things. But just really trying to find a solid rotation. And everything we do, we're trying to find minutes for Jordan, especially when you play teams where all of a sudden the lineups might be a little smaller. We still have to find a way to get them on the floor.
Was there anything that kind of surprised you, or kind of you learned you hadn't seen in practice, of just seeing guys in different rotations actually in a live game?
Well, not really, because I think you have guys with a mentality to score the ball, aggressive mentality. So that part is good. I think spending more time with zone, because that's not something we do a lot of. But flowing into it and not. I think one of the things that we'll work on today is flowing into the zone offense and not necessarily stopping at half court because they run the zone. You got to get out and run the same way, because you can hit the wings and the corners and still play, and just being assertive that way.
Talk a lot about Javon and Kobe's leadership. Did you see anyone else kind of emerge as leadership maybe when you guys are going through the not so great moments of the game, the highs and lows, stuff like that?
Well, not so much as seeing, because it's in most cases down the stretch the same guys on the floor. But what I did here on the sideline, a guy like Anton, a guy like Yaya, those guys are vocal guys, and you saw them in the summer with their ability to lead because they were able to communicate. Now it's just a matter of going through it as freshmen, whatever the ups and downs are. But those guys, they'll communicate through our games. And I thought, Dejuan, and forgive me, sometimes I call him quiet, but so I'm talking about the same guy. He does a good job leading and being vocal as well. So you can certainly hear it on the sidelines.
Cuonzo, you mentioned after the game just how Kobe was hard to get in the flow of the game because of his fouls. What's it say about him that he kind of took over there late, even with 4 fouls, got to the free throw line a bunch?
Well, he's that guy. And again, Kobe's a guy. You watch him in workouts, he get into the rim, making plays. It looks great. But the thing for him is get him to understand, have the mentality to score every time down. Because he's a guy that naturally wants to facilitate and make plays. I would consider him an elite level rebounder, where he's crashing the glass, especially second half of the season up until now. And he's a guy that facilitates. And he had 4 turnovers, but really those turnovers are trying to get guys the ball. And you don't mind those, but again, I felt like in watching film, 3 of those he should have made plays on his own. But he's that type of guy, just really getting him to understand every time down, even if you're designing plays for him, having the ball in hand, make a play at the rim. Because he's so physical and strong, once you get there, you have to make a decision Plus, he's already a willing passer. But just, I thought the maturity as a basketball player, having 4 fouls to finish the game the way he did, but also stayed aggressive. And I said to him, if you foul out being aggressive.
He's going to find himself at the line probably a lot. How have you seen him with a free throw shooter?
Oh, not bad. Much improved free throw shooter, but I think the more he gets to the line, the better free throw shooter he'll become.
I know that the issue with Gordon was, I guess, an unsanctioned summer league.
Yes.
Is there anything you can explain about that rule or how that came about, kind of what led to him having to miss a game?
Well, I think it was unfortunate, but he played in a game that was certified, and certified in the NCAA, played in a game, and then he played in another tournament, tournament pro-am, and a coach from another program called one of our coaches and said, just want to give you some insight. And once we found out and we let him know that he stopped playing, I was like, oh, I didn't know that, because a guy that coached him for years, run programs all the time, said it was sanctioned, but it was sanctioned by the NBA, not necessarily NCAA. But one was. But again, once we found out, he found out, okay, that was it. There was no money, no exchange, anything like that. So I thought that was unfortunate because, again, of course you have to follow the rules. But when he found out, okay, it wasn't sanctioned, and it wasn't like some mischief under the table. It was a certified event, but pro-am. And he played in it, but we were done. And here's a guy that lost a college game. With all the stuff that we have going on in our game, we have some cleaning up to do. We're working hard toward it, because I'm on the oversight committee, so I understand. I'm behind the scenes, so I see how hard they try to work to make stuff happen the right way. But that's a tough one, because this is his life. This is what he does. He plays basketball. He's a student athlete. I wouldn't even consider him making a mistake. I would put that on me, just because, again, we didn't know. He just figured one was sanctioned because he did. He followed the rules, and we follow protocol and procedure here. But you take a game away from a young man, and this is who he is. Because oftentimes perception is, well, why is he out? You assume certain things. But he's a wonderful young man, and we're happy to have him back in the fold.
I promise I'm not trying to get you in trouble.
Oh, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
But when, I mean, the outside view of something like this is the NCAA says, we're here for the kids, and something like this costs a kid a game, and everything that's gone on in the last 2 years. Do you have any big...
Well, I just think it's tough. You guys always seem to get me in these situations somehow. But I just think it's tough because it's hard. It's hard. Everybody's trying to win games, and you want what's best for your student athletes, and there's a right and wrong. Just like my 2 cents, I think it's wrong what happened to Oklahoma State. I'm not behind the scenes. I don't have footage behind the scenes. I'm not with the infractions committee. But I thought that was wrong, especially when the guy that's coaching the program had nothing to do with the whole situation. That's mind-blowing to me. And the guy that was a part of it, he's out of the business. He'll probably never get back in, which is probably unfortunate because we all make mistakes. But you punish a team when a guy recruited guys to be a part of his program, but they were allowed to play with Cade Cunningham on the floor. It's just a lot of question marks for me. But then, if that's the rule, then I'm still waiting on the other rules, and we've been waiting for a while. And it's very disappointing when you look at it from that standpoint.
A lot of fans talking to me about the athleticism of this team. They were impressed with, the other night. What can you say about the athleticism? And, do you feel like this is a more athletic team than you've had years past?
Those are areas we certainly tried to address from the standpoint of athleticism along with length. But also having guys understand you can play 10 guys and everybody still can be successful. Years ago used to be the mentality where somebody scored 20 points, they have a chance to be an NBA player and that sort of thing, because that's their mindset. But you can score 8 points and be a first-round draft pick. You can score 6 points and be a second-round draft pick. It's about being a great team and understanding. And what NBA sees, yes, they see talent, but they also see production per minute. There are many guys that average 20 points a game but shoot 16, 17 shots. What's your production per minute? Can you be very productive? And that's what we try to work towards as a staff. Can you get 10 guys that you can put on the floor and not skip a beat? But do I think we're athletic? And I think we're still working toward becoming more athletic. But also, that it's not just athleticism, but there's also skill behind athleticism. Yes.
Cuonzo, I know he didn't play a lot, but what do you think of Anton versus the other night? He's going to give you different looks going forward.
Oh, sky's the limit. Sky's the limit, because if you said, put guys on the floor and say who can make 20, 30 shots in a row, he would certainly be one of those guys. I mean, he can shoot at a high level. He's really improved. He's a point guard with the mentality to score, which is great. But even in scoring, don't necessarily settle for threes, even though he can shoot threes. Be aggressive, pushing the ball in transition, because I thought he did the best job of looking ahead, getting the ball out and looking up, and forcing your perimeter guys to run. So I thought that part was great. Now, when you get the ball back in your hand and make plays, get to the rim, make plays, find guys, because he's fast, he's shifty around the rim. He has the floaters, he has all the maneuvers around the basket. But again, he's a high-level three-point shooter. Anytime he's open, shoot him at all time. Even the 3 threes that he shot in the game, I wouldn't necessarily say he was ready to shoot them. It was kind of like, okay, let me shoot, as opposed to ready to shoot the ball and making a play. Because he's a guy you would want on the floor if a team is playing the zone, because you have to guard him.
With the 18-second chance points you guys had in the game, what did you like about how they're crashing the offensive plays?
We've been doing that, and that's been an emphasis. But I think especially Ronnie, Javon, Kobe, and Dejuan, those guys are high-level offensive rebounders. They're chasing them, and they're relentless in it. The other guys are getting better at it. The more Yaya's athleticism come back, the more he conditions his body at this level, all the stuff that's involved, he's a high-level offensive rebounder as well. So we have guys that really take pride in that. But I think those 4 that I mentioned, they're trying to get them every chance they get.
I believe now that the 2022 guys are signed, you can specifically talk about them now. When you look for walk-on guys, I mean, did Desiree contact you first with Jackson, or how did all that work? And then when you, I guess you came here in June, was the next time you thought, what was your reaction when you heard her name was in the mix for the AD and now you worked for her, I guess?
No, so, well, again, you're talking about me knowing somebody for 10 years. So just even when I was, say I'm out recruiting in Vegas, they have tournaments all the time, and I'll see them. We'll stop by, maybe have dinner, whatever, and we would talk about it. It's not necessarily, okay, I'm coming on this date, that day. You're talking about when he was young all the way up. So when they came this summer, and we talked about it, I said, great. Yeah, I mean, because you're talking about a young man that, more than anything, outside of whether he gets on the floor or not, he understands what he's getting himself into. And I think that is important. When you're walking on a program, there's a chance I might not ever play, but I still have to have the same amount of impact on and off the court as I do as my fellow teammates. I think that part is very important. Same stuff I kind of mentioned to him, I mentioned to my son who walked on at Purdue. The same things. You have to do everything that's involved with the team. You might not ever see the floor. You don't ask for minutes. You don't complain about minutes. You go about your job, your day-to-day. You be the best student athlete you can be. It's the same stuff. Now, if you want to be a part of it, great. And we probably still looking at a couple walk-ons as we speak. I might even go over to the rec here and there, just get a couple guys, just for practice purposes. That's not a joke, that's real. I mean, you can laugh, but just from practice standpoint, to get more guys over there. I'm not going to play over there, but probably get a couple guys, because I think you need more in the fold. And we have 3 behind the scenes, but for eligibility reasons, they can't be a part of the roster. But we're trying to get about 3 or 4 more guys. Yeah.
As far as the scholarship guys who signed this week, what did you see out of Christian Jones that convinced you to jump on that?
Well, I think he's a guy from end to end. You're talking about laying the ball up from end to end in 4 seconds. He's long, he's athletic, he's about 6'5". I think the biggest key with him is just continued strength, as well as all 3 of the guys, but continued strength. But he can shoot the ball, he can get to the rim, he can make plays, he's shifty with the basketball, especially at his size. Talking about a guy that can play at the point, 6'5". But I love his ability to get to the basket and make plays. Willing passer as well, but also getting downhill. And as he adds strength, I think he'll be a really good ball player. Plus he's getting some great coaching. And I guess they say, Rouge, you can't talk about the school he's at and all that, but he's going to get some great high school coaching.
What about Aiden? People seem to say defense might be a little more ready than offense right away. Is that fair?
I wouldn't necessarily say. I think he's a guy that slashes. I think he's a high-level slasher. I mean, you're talking 6'8" and possibly 6'9" right now. I think when you say defense, and one thing because I always see defense first in my mind, I think he has the potential of being an elite level. When you talk about guys, and I don't want to throw NBA out there, because every time people talk NBA, you assume a guy's a first round and all that. But I'm saying it from the standpoint when you're talking elite level athleticism and from a defensive standpoint, I think he's that already. Well, you ain't talking about a guy that blocks shots, run the floor, great teammate, student of the game, and he works at the level of Javon Pickett in high school. That's how, I mean, you got to catch Aiden early in the morning, you got to catch him late at night just to have a conversation, because it's all the way, always working out all the time. And when guys work at that level, in most cases it works out for them.
I don't mind if I get a follow about Jackson. Just I know that a lot of it may be
Yeah.
because who his mom is, but
Yeah.
you know, just how do you make sure you want to include her and you're still friends with her as well, but yet you still have the time to kind of coach and separate?
Oh, I could do that easy, because she has a job to do. She works for the university. I mean, that's her job. My job is to coach the basketball team. If Jackson's a part of our team, then Jackson, he's responsible, or he's accountable for everything else everybody else on the team is when it comes to taking care of business. So, but it's not as if I'm reporting to his mom every 5 minutes what he's doing, because we don't do that with our other players. I mean, but again, she's an athletic director. She understands that. And Jackson, if you met him, he's a sound young man, and he wants to be a part of it. He studies it. I think he'll be a great teammate, and just I think it'll be fun to be around. Because again, I've known him for a long time, and just seeing the type of young man he is and what he's become, I'm just happy for him.
Knowing Jackson, like you do, what kind of impact you mentioned, off the court, do you think he can make this team?
Oh, just like, I mean, I think he's an exceptional student, but I think just like any of our players, when we get involved with the community, he's a part of that. I mean, but again, we're not necessarily looking at him. Okay, that's athletic director Francois' son. Let's treat him, man. He's getting treated like everybody else on his team, whatever that is. I mean, he's a part of it. He's late for class. Whatever that is, it just, I mean, so it's what we do, and we don't compromise in those areas. We have compassion for what our student athletes go through. We understand that, but if he's a part of the team, he's a part of the team. Yeah.
Cuonzo signing 2 scholarship guys would on paper put you at a limit for next year, but how do you go about keep recruiting?
We're doing it as we speak. And just you not to say you're losing guys, because I do like our unit right now. I really do. I like where we're going. I like where we'll become. But there's still guys we're looking at. No question about it. And I think more than anything, just they have to fit with the character and the makeup of our locker room right now.
Kind of on that same note, how does signing a guy like Aiden kind of impact your recruiting going forward?
I think it's great because he's a talented player and just one of those guys you identify from day one when you take a job and you recognize who the guys are and you just build a relationship, and oftentimes, truthfully, those are hard ones, because when you're recruiting somebody for so long, what are you really saying after a while? I mean, though my wife and I, we have great relationships after 30 years, we have wonderful talks, so I'm not comparing the two, but what are you saying in 4 years in recruiting? You see him, what do you say? You're calling, you're texting. And to stay the course, because after a while, man, I've known those guys for a long time. Somebody else knew, and it sounds exciting. He was consistent in his approach in recruiting. He identified certain things, and I give credit to him as well as his family of understanding what they were looking for, but the consistency, because that's not an easy thing to do when you're recruiting somebody for, really 4 years, and you can't take days and weeks off, and all of a sudden, let me pick back up, recruit him 3 months later. And you just have to be consistent, and we were consistent as a staff. And one thing we try to recruit the whole family. But he was consistent, and sometimes it's just being present. Because you get to a point with a guy like that you've seen so long, you're not necessarily going to his games or AAU events and evaluating. You're more or less just there so he can see you present.
Ahead of Monday's game, Kansas City ran one of the slowest offenses last year. How do you feel like your team is going to fare moving forward in the half court, and how do you think, they're going to keep up with their pace?
How do you think we'll keep up with UMKC's pace?
Yeah.
Oh, we just got to get out and play the way we play, and you have to, in some ways make them uncomfortable, and do what we do. Just really try to impose your will, because they have a certain style. Virginia has a certain style, and you have to play your style, whatever that is. And I guess it somewhat becomes a chess match, but you have to do what you do best. You can't get consumed with that. But you have to be sound, and I think one of the things that makes Virginia great, outside of Tony being a great coach in that program, is the mental piece of not getting anxious when the shot clock goes down. All of a sudden it goes from 25, the 14, the 8, you still have to be sound defensively and not break down. And that's what teams like that beat you, when you allow those mental lapses to take place.
Yeah, kind of. How do you feel like this team ranks? I know it's pretty early, but how do you feel like this team ranks among the teams you've had in terms of getting out of transition?
Well, I'm not going to say the ones in the past didn't. It's just more what we tried to do as a staff of getting out, going, and transitioning, flowing. I think you have more decision makers, more ball handlers on this roster, and more guys can get up and make plays. I think we have a pretty good shooting team right now, in my opinion. I think the area that we have to grow on from last year, because I thought Jeremiah Mitchell did a great job of sprinting down the floor. We have to get that part from that position. Now, Jordan is not necessarily a sprinter like Jeremiah Mitchell, but Yaya is. And Kobe in some situations he is. But once you get that part, then everything else falls in line. But I think from a perimeter standpoint, those guys are getting out and going. And anytime you can have multiple guys on the floor that can make a decision with the ball, I think it helps your offense. And I think that's tougher to defend.
Yeah, kind of talking about Yaya, how do you feel like he's eased into his minutes? I know you guys are trying to ease him back or whatever. Do you feel like he's 100%? Or?
I think he's healthy, yes. But I think the 100% comes in not necessarily pain in his body, but just the reps. Because you go a year removed from playing, and it's not as if you're going back to where you were playing. You're a year removed now at a higher level. The pace of things now, you're defending more on the perimeter than you've ever defended on the perimeter before. Different type of ball screen coverage. I'm guarding a big guy that stays around the rim. Now I'm guarding a guy that shoots threes. I've got to switch on the ball screen. There's a lot of different things that are asked of you while you're trying to get back to where you were. But I think he's healthy from a pain standpoint. But now it's just a matter of the reps under his belt and going through it.
With all that in mind, what did you think of his performance the night?
After maybe when he settled in, because that first few minutes I was ooh. But once he settled in, he was good. Because, again, it moves so fast, and it's real. And everybody can play. And the one thing about the transfer portal, it gives teams balance. Because I can safely say, with all due respect, that the team that we scheduled to play Central Michigan, that wasn't the same team that we played the other night. A mixture of guys, all of a sudden, that's a different team. So you're not walking into games, let's go have a little fun. It's a different team. So same thing for him. Unfortunately, Anton as well as Sean, Caleb, they don't really have the luxury of going into college where you a lot of those games. And I don't think those games are good, and we might have some here and there where you schedule games, you probably end up 50-point win. I just feel like let's play teams, let's compete, let's get better. When it's all said and done, we're a program we want to play those teams, and you look up years later, we had the opportunity to play a certain type of schedule. So they might not get the chance to patent the stats like it used to be 10, 20 years ago, like when I was in college, get a few points here and there, but they'll be better for it.
Cuonzo, you said you know Ronnie since I think his junior year of high school, you said?
Yes.
Was that more on the AAU circuit? Was that on?
No, we looked at it. Well, again, Coach Cohen went to Colorado. So he knows the family, knows all that, Chauncey Billups and all that. So, yes. So we were looking at him then he went to a prep school, so we were still looking at him, but we decided to do something different, and I'm glad he's back in our family.
You mentioned in the past with guys who played for opponents, maybe like a Nick Richards at Kentucky. You like to see, happy to see guys develop away from you. What can you speak to what he did not under your tutelage that is helping him now?
Oh, Ronnie's, again, his dad's a coach, so he's getting what he needs to get from a basketball standpoint. But Ronnie's also one of those guys and a teammate. Whatever it takes to get done, whatever it takes to win, what does our team need to do for us to be successful? Ronnie's as a coach, that's easy. Those are the ones that you want as a coach, and it's peaceful and it's easy because he's going to do what it takes for the team to be successful. And oftentimes we as coaches, we have a tendency to neglect guys like that because they do all the right things, and you get consumed with guys that are, ruffling little feathers here and there, and you spend so much time there as opposed to giving your time there. So I've tried to do it in the past year and a half of giving a lot of time to guys like Ronnie DeGray, Javon Pickett for doing what they do and applauding that and not taking it for granted.
Coach, you're talking about playing an identity. I know you released a lot of new guys on other bases, and you had a whole offseason to prepare, but did Tuesday teach you anything new about what this team brings to the board? Do you
Tuesday certainly helps, but I think every game helps because you have to go through it because every game presents something different. And then you have other guys in the fold. I mean, to be able to get out there with a win without key guys not even playing. So that part is great. But I think, a team that wants to play with a level of toughness, we have to continue to play smart all the time. We have to be very competitive. We have to show great leadership, whether you're a freshman or a senior, great leadership and just a compassion for each other. We have to find everything in our power. I want to see my teammate be very successful. And I thought Javon in that particular game, and it's really his first time since he's been in the program, showed a great amount of leadership through the course of a game, communicating with guys at free throws, timeouts, and that's impressive. And that's what it takes as a team, and handling constructive criticism amongst your teammates with respect and understanding it's just about us being successful as a team. And I think, again, we have that right now. We just got to continue to foster that and work toward it. So I think we have the parts to be very successful. And, again, you have to go through a lot of different things, and every game presents something differently. But I like where we are.
What did you think of Sean's performance the other night? Just a guy who you said he needs to get some reps under his belt and got a couple of minutes. What did you think you saw from him?
Not bad, not bad. Sean missed that 1-3, but Sean has really improved his three-point shot. And Sean, one of those guys, again, I think he can make out of 10 shots, 8 to 10 shots, 7 to 10 shots, shooting threes. I think he can. Has good athleticism, and we got to continue to find time to find ways to get him on the floor. Thank you.